Hi, welcome to Force for Growth Live. I'm Ricardo.
I'm Courtney.
And remember to like and share. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Force for Growth.
Yes. And it's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, you guys. Happy hump day. So, reminder hashtag hump over your hurdle. So, it's just like Brian Tracy says, eat that frog. So, if you've never heard that concept, start with even though it might not be tasty and juicy, start with the most protein, the thing that you can knock out that will give you momentum for the rest of your day or week. So, what's that thing you need to knock out first? So, that's our hashtag hump over your hurdle. So, that is our Wednesday tradition and let us know what you're working on or what you're struggling with. We'd love to help.
I got a tidbit to share about Brian Tracy.
What's that?
So, Tony Robbins was like the first guy that got me into self development, watching his infomercials in the early 90s, late 80s, right? And then after that, someone at work where I was working, they were like, "Oh, you like Tony Robbins? You need to listen to Brian Tracy." I was like, "Oh, I never heard of him before." And so they gave me the six tape set of Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Achievement, and I wore that sucker out. It's a
Love it.
great, 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 great tape set. And I never gave it back to this girl, to my friend. And I'm still friends with her on Facebook, by the way. So that's pretty funny.
Do you
And
still have it?
I don't,
Oh,
but I still remember it very vividly because I went to just listening to this because it was just such a great material. And then what about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I made friends with Mr. Kyle Wilson. He used to work for Jim Rohn. He was Jim Rohn's business partner for several years, and he was doing the 20th anniversary of the Brian Tracy Success Mastery Academy. And he invited me, and then I found myself having dinner with Brian Tracy.
is it
And
life fun when you show up
it,
for yourself?
man, that was like really, literally one of the best things ever. It was amazing. And then like right after the dinner, I text my friend. I sent her a message on Facebook. I'm like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that I remember you giving me the six tape set of Brian Tracy back in 2000s or whatever, right? And I was like, I'm sitting here with him having dinner with him. How
That's
cool is that?
awesome. That is awesome. I did not know that about you, my friend.
Yeah,
That's
it
pretty
was good.
cool. Yeah,
Whew, we got a topic today, Courtney.
we do. I feel like it's targeted at me. Just kidding. Not
Here we
really. But
go. Today, we're going to talk about being stubborn.
does anyone else get a little ping in your gut when we bring this up?
Ooh, I know I do.
Yeah.
I know I do. You
Are
know
you
what Jessie
stubborn?
said this morning when I told her what the topic was?
What?
She said, "You are the king of stubbornness sometimes."
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And
You
I
do
was
it in
like,
efficient ways sometimes, most of the time. But
"Yeah." Well, and I told her that I was like, "Yeah, unfortunately, my queen's not going to be on the show today,
oh,
or
that's
the little prince of
good.
stubbornness.
Right.
None of us are going to be on there." So yeah,
Oh,
it's a running joke that whenever we run into someone that's super stubborn, we're like, we need to get their DNA checked to see if they're Leons.
right. Hey, that's a bit that it's a good thing. Like it's a good thing. It's just a thing that I think we abuse and misunderstand a lot.
Let's
But
talk about the misunderstandings about being stubborn first, and then
yeah.
we can talk about why it's powerful and a good thing.
Okay. You got it. And yeah, just stubbornness. So it's obviously there for a reason. It is obviously there for a reason, but where let's be honest, let's just take a moment and
Oh,
be
you know
honest with
what?
ourselves.
Here's the thing, Courtney. Here's the thing. You're about one stubborn fill in the blank. You
Yeah.
are. You are. I
Oh
see
yeah.
it. I'm like, oh my God, Courtney is so freaking stubborn.
Yeah, I am. Well, technically, I'm a double tourist. I am a tourist rising and a tourist sun sign, and then my moon's Gemini, so I got some multiple personality in there. So stubborn, stubborn, multiple personality. That's my joke
Mm.
about my astrological setup. But yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I don't even take suggestions. Or no, what it's I don't take orders. I barely take suggestions. I love that meme when
Ooh.
I saw it a few years ago. I've shared it a bunch of times, but that is me in a nutshell. Also, what's held me back over the years, also what's contributed to some things I'm successful at. So it's a toss up. I
Let's
It's a
talk about the
bittersweet thing.
holdback first. Let's talk about the holdback first, and then we'll end with the positives about being stubborn because it's a double-sided, it's
See,
a
I keep wanting to be
double-edged
like, "Let's
sword.
talk about the happy parts. Let's not get
No,
there."
we got to talk about the uncomfortable parts,
Okay.
and then we can end with the happy parts, right?
Mm.
Whew. So where has this gotten in the way, Courtney? I can go first, or you can go first, either one of us, because I have several examples in
I
my
have
arsenal of
several
times where I've been
examples.
stubborn and it did not help me.
Okay, I'm just gonna pick one. Just, uh, just I don't know, my beliefs. Like I get myself into trouble sometimes with just standing my ground or kind of trying to trigger a spark at someone's brain that lights something up that sends them down a research path. And I should stop. Sometimes I poke the bear a little too much. But yeah, definitely not taking advice I should. That's my other one. That
Ooh.
has really held me back. And biofeedback, like I knew in the moment I should take that advice. I knew when I heard it, it resonated and I should take it. I continue to not take it.
Mm.
Stubbornness. I have to almost prove it to myself that I'm right. I don't know, it just ended up a lot more times that I
Okay,
kind of
let's
fell on my
hold
face
on, hold
and
on,
back
hold
to
on.
the
Let's
advice.
back it up. I'm gonna give a very specific example, Courtney.
Okay.
I've been asking Courtney to start practicing breathing through her nose for the podcast to help me out with the editing and the sound of the podcast, right? And I'm like, okay, it'll just be so good for you because your throat won't dry out. And towards the end of the recording, your throat won't get all scratchy and stuff if you just breathe through your nose. And I'm like, breathe through your nose, breathe through your nose. Courtney, breathe through your nose.
I
And
have
then
to learn how
finally
to
she
breathe
came
through
up
my
and
nose while
said,
smiling.
and then finally she told me, tell me this, tell the story.
Oh, how the diaphragmatic breathing?
Yes, why you don't like to do it.
Okay, I do okay, yeah, so back in high school when I dissolved my singing career, come from a family of musicians, and anyway, so I'd spent many, many years in voice lessons, in choir, and da 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 da, and um, yeah, I never had realized that in my adult life now until talking to Ricardo and he's telling me to breathe a certain way, how much of an anchor I had to being told, breathe through your diaphragm, breathe through Courtney, breathe through your diaphragm, and being shouted at. And I didn't realize that until he's sitting there telling me. And literally, my gut reaction is like, I know how to breathe through my diaphragm, but I'm not doing it. Right. I'm still not doing it. So I had and, he's my friend, we worked through a lot of things in the moment, so I just stopped and was like, "Okay, I just had a memory, and I realized this, like, deep anchor I have to being corrected on my breathing," and, once I walked it through,
The ironic part is, even then she was being stubborn.
that
And the
perspective you have
stubbornness,
to tell because 'cause I'm not keen on your perspective of the conversation.
I was like, even then, yeah, like my first thought was like, even in high school when this was first brought up, you were being stubborn, and this is going through now. You're carrying that stubbornness about the breathing.
Yeah,
I thought that was just hilarious, and it's so on point. So here's my issue. Here's my biggest downfall, Courtney. Are you
okay,
ready?
I am. Tell me more.
My stubbornness escalates to pettiness.
Ooh,
Yeah. I'm not proud of it, but it's the fact. It's the truth. My stubbornness escalates to pettiness, where I just dig my heels in so hard and so deep that I will spite myself just what's the saying? I can't think of it, but basically, I'll cut my arm off just to prove someone wrong. I
mm,
can't think of the saying.
I
If
get
anyone
I
remembers
get
the saying, comment
yeah,
below or tag us at Force for Growth. But I
yes,
can't remember the exact saying.
but
But
yeah,
man, I'll dig my heels in, and I'm like, mm-mm, I will not prove. I will not admit it. I will not admit that I was wrong.
yeah. There's this great image of, it's a wolf almost diving over a cliff. I mean, I think it is over a cliff, but it's chasing a bird. So it chased the bird off of the cliff. And I think it just says something about like, be careful what you like stay stubborn on, or be careful what you don't look up from. But it's some phrase, but it's like, that's very true. Like some stuff, you got to know where the cliff line is, got to know where it is, but and
I
stop
don't.
before that point.
I've gotten better. I will say this. I've gotten better in recent memory over the last year or two. I've started to be like, no, you know what? I'm wrong. Let me just shift course here. And it's okay to admit that I'm wrong. It's okay to swallow the humble bug.
Mhm.
But man, it's hard.
Has it so the lessons that we've learned from stubbornness, do you have regrets about not taking the advice or not learning the lesson sooner, or did it help your journey and strengthen it? Like, what are your afterthoughts looking back?
Man, okay, so here's the interesting part. Let me answer the question. Let me answer that in two parts. Obviously, there's a times where it was a lesson for me, and that lesson really stuck with me, right? But there was those times where I was just so stubborn and so set in my ways that I refused to give up, and I pushed, 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 and made it work. Even though it was a lot harder, though it took me a lot more work, even though I exhausted my resources, I still pulled it off just because I was so stubborn. So it's helped me in both ways because my unwillingness to just give in and to admit that I may have made a mistake pushed me harder to get the outcome that I wanted.
I think that's fair. I think I like for me, there's certain situations if I wouldn't have stayed in it so long, I wouldn't have the appreciation I do now that I did the opposite because I really got to know what you don't like about something. And so, but there's also times where, I mean, could have shaved off a few years
Yeah, yeah,
working on
yeah.
some things, right? If I would have just taken the advice.
But those are some powerful lessons though, right?
Oh, yeah. The most powerful.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
biggest lessons of my life always revolved around stubbornness. Always.
And I'll
Even
say, like, I can think of several times where I pushed myself even harder to achieve the outcome that I wanted just because I didn't want to admit that I was wrong.
yeah, that's a huge one.
It is
That is a
huge.
huge one because we know we're not right on this, but we're still pouring energy into defending it or arguing it or pursuing it. There's just you gotta listen to the whispers in your gut. I don't know how it'll show up. I don't know if it'll show up as a whisper. I don't know if it'll show up as like a ping in your stomach where you're just like, something's not right. But you got to get quiet with yourself to learn. So in those moments of extreme stubbornness, okay, I'm either going to double down, pull a Ricardo, or step back. Am I looking at this in the right perspective? Maybe I should try. Even if I don't agree with that advice, should I give it a try?
More like triple down or quadruple down or
Right?
10x down.
Let's go
It's
10x.
literally this goes beyond double. Like
Yeah, that's
double is gone out the gate. Like we don't just double down in the Leon household. We 100x.
hmm yeah.
Let's
Oh,
see here. Jesse says, stubbornness is the strength of the weak. Mm.
yeah.
Well, that's something to
That's a good
think
one.
about.
Let's see. Ryan said, "Cut your arm off, then shake someone's hand, admitting you're wrong."
Mm.
Is that the saying you were going for? Either way, that's a profound thinking one.
Yeah. Jesse says, being stubborn can be a good thing. Being stubborn can be a bad thing. It just depends on how you use it.
Thank you, Jesse. It's a tool. It's a tool, you guys. Like,
Whoa.
I know,
Oh,
I
hold
know.
it. Oh,
That's what it felt
reel
like.
it back in, Courtney. Reel it back
Okay,
in.
that's what it feels like. I just, like, had that slap me in the face. So, yeah, it's a tool. So, 1, I'm talking to me. I'm diagnosing this to me in front of everyone. I need to stop identifying with being so stubborn. I need to stop it. I need to then make sure I know it's a tool. So then in the moment, instead of being like, well, it's just who you are, identifying with it, right? Good or bad. And then realizing like, no, I can just snap out of that, pull it out of my toolbox when I need it and put it right back in. Because the power, the freedom in that is you can turn it off when
Hmm.
you're aware you don't need it. If you make sure you know it's a tool. So
It's a
yeah, that
skill.
one really just hit me.
Being stubborn could be a skill. And then Ryan says, Ricardo, if you're the king of stubborn, let's find you a jester. Oh, ha, 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 ha.
You sound like you might be it, Ryan. Getting to know you a little bit more. But
All
yeah,
right. Let's talk about the benefits, the positive, why it's good to be stubborn, why it's good to stand up for yourself, why it's good to
unwavering belief, unwavering faith in yourself, in your dream, in your whatever. Like I'd almost say like don't start something until you figure out that core mission of who you are, who you want to be, even if you're working on becoming that, because it can drive everything you do in a good
Hmm.
way. But you got to use it, you got to channel it, and you got to be aware of what it is. And so if you're being stubborn without a purpose, you're not doing anything. I mean, you're not progressing your life as much as you could be. But I mean, if you add purpose behind it, I mean, every great movement of men over all of our history is because of stubbornness, you know? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not here's you get it on the first try. Good job. That's not life.
I got one word for you. Ready?
Yes.
Boundaries.
Oh,
Boundaries.
that's a good one. Yes.
You have to be stubborn when you're protecting your boundaries. If not, it's if you're not stubborn when you protect your boundaries, then it's not really a boundary, is it?
No. They could just walk past it. No.
Yeah, they could just like trample over it, walk past it, walk around, walk over you. So you really have to be stubborn and dig your heels in when you set a really clear and strong boundary. When you're
Mhm.
saying, okay, hey, you know what? That's not acceptable. I am not going to accept that from you. So I would appreciate it if you stop that.
Mhm. And in those moments, the way to do it is just to be blunt and clear. Blunt and clear. You don't need to explain. You don't need to give paragraphs of information. You just need to be blunt and clear. And if you need to bow out of a situation, I'll give you one line. And I use it all the time. If I encounter that, I will not participate in this negativity
Mm,
and leave the conversation. Done. It's different if there's something it's your responsibility and you need to take responsibility for it. That's another part of stubbornness. We need to take responsibility, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I feel like a lot of people just assume responsibility, scary, bad, I messed up. No, like it's stepping up to the next stair step, you know, and it's just it's good the good with the bad. So they give up their power and saying like this happened and I don't know, just you got to push harder, push harder. There is feedback sometimes that's showing you that's not the right path. Take the feedback, pivot, push harder, push harder, push harder. If the feedback tells you to pivot again, listen. But otherwise, you charge and you just charge. I mean, okay,
charge.
so Ricardo told us how he had dinner with Brian Tracy. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to absorb the content of Brian Tracy that he truly needed. Otherwise, why would you have worn out a tape set, for years? You wouldn't have done it unless you heard different things every time. But you knew you wanted to truly understand that content. Look what it landed you at a dinner table with Brian Tracy one time. Like you got to pour yourself into something, you guys.
Man, you know what? We're so lucky today in the digital age. You can't wear out an MP3. You can't wear out a digital
Right?
file.
Thank goodness.
Just throwing that out there.
You
Just
can't scratch
saying.
an MP3.
No, it's always with you, like all these pluses, so it's so much better. Let's see here. Ryan says, circle one, God and I, circle two, Tiffany and I, circle three, Sloan and my brother. Those boundaries are firm. That's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I don't know if this helps anyone, but this line really changed my life when I heard it. You are not responsible for who they think you are. You're responsible for who you are.
Mm,
So if you're being stubborn to defend yourself in the realms of what someone else thinks of you, it's going to be a lot more effective to just go out and be that person. Because then you don't
mm.
have to defend anything. Then you don't have to defend, you don't have to explain, you don't have to use words. Stop using words. Okay, that's another stubborn principle. Let's stop using words and let's use actions. So whether that's walking away because you need to honor your boundaries, or whether that's running full force towards something when you don't want to, but you need to turn up the stubbornness. So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Real quick, Jesse has a definition of stubborn,
Oh, thank you for
and
that.
it's unreasonable or perversely undenying, mullish, justifiably unyielding, resolute, suggestive of typical of strong, stubborn, and nature stubborn jaw. And that doesn't sound like a good quality.
Yeah, it sounds big and scary,
It really does. That does not sound good. Man, now that we know exactly what it means, I don't think I want to identify as stubborn anymore.
right? I mean,
Man,
that's the meaning you apply to it. So back up. So when you, whoever's listening to this or watching, if you tell yourself you're stubborn, does that make your body feel good? Does that make your body feel bad? It's very simple and you got to understand it. So also the meanings we apply to things, it's either lifting you up or it could be draining you. So pick a different word.
yeah, it's a different word, but man, by the definition, they need to add like a maybe a more standing your ground,
Unhealthy
setting
or
your
being
boundary,
successful. Yeah.
right? Like we got to explore the other side of it, you know. So, good topic today, Courtney.
Yes. I
Good
like this. I
topic
didn't know how I
today.
felt about it before we started talking. I didn't know how.
You know, one of the things I will say is that I think when we're stubborn with our beliefs, when we're stubborn with our convictions, when we're stubborn with you know, just standing our ground and really setting that boundary, especially when setting that boundary, we feel powerful. We're
Mhm.
like, yes, you know,
You
I
take your
set that
power back,
boundary and I honored that boundary. I didn't just fold.
and that's how you build confidence and
Yeah.
self-esteem. It's by honoring your own word to yourself.
Yes. Good episode, Courtney.
Yeah, thank you, Ricardo. I agree.
Oh, thank you. I don't know why I breathe out like that at the end of every episode. I really need to stop that. That's a bad habit.
I'm doing good at breathing through my nose since you called me out on my being. So thank you.
Oh, Courtney, only love.
I'll get better from here on out. Y'all can bet that. Just
It
kidding.
was just an example.
I know.
Hey.
No, it's a good example because it's true. And we'll talk about anchors another time because anchors is another massive subject that conversation was part of a bigger one to I didn't realize how many old disempowering anchors I was hanging on to still.
Yeah,
So we
that's a
will
big
dive
one.
on that another time.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Force for Growth. Remember to like and share. Go visit forceforgrowth.com to listen and check us out on social media
Yes, at Force for Growth and
at Force for Growth. Yeah,
forceforgrowth.com.
on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes. How exciting.
Have a great day, everybody, and we'll be back on Friday.
Bye.